G'day, how you going? As you probably know, I'm not Santa Claus. I'm David A. Elliott. But either way, ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, everyone! As I said in my last video, I'll recount my recollections of the Newcastle Santa Claus Pub Crawl from 1989. That was nearly 30 years ago. Crikey, I must be old. My recollections may be a little vague or even inaccurate at times, but that'd have nothing to do with how much I drank, would it? No, of course not. I remember an old school friend was getting married overseas, so it was decided to have an early bucks night before he left. Another friend organised for us to meet at the Mary Ellen Hotel in Merriweather. I think around 5 p.m, but definitely on Friday, the 22nd of December, 1989. I don't believe I was aware there was a Santa Claus pub crawl on that night. In any case, I'd never heard of it before, though the friend who organised it worked at the BHP and he was aware that it was on that night. Either way, I wasn't really dressed for it. But I probably wouldn't have dressed up for it anyway, as I was a bit of a stick in the mud back then. About 6:30, I think, someone blew a whistle, or perhaps it was a big bell. But anyway, they got everyone's attention to move on to South's Leagues Club. So we all tagged along, including my friend, who now had a ball and chain around his leg. The number 80 of the number of Santas seems to have popped into my head, which would probably be around right. It was an impressive sight, especially seeing them all crowded into South's. I recall there must have been a kids' Christmas party upstairs as the adults brought them all onto the stairs to look at all the Santas. I did feel it may have been a bit inappropriate for little kids to see all these Santas guzzling beer in a rush before moving on to the next pub. But at least it was early and all the Santas were well behaved and didn't look sloshed yet. I think we spent about half an hour at each location. So when the bell rang, we were off again. I vaguely remember we were at the Burwood Inn next. I think my group began to straggle behind the main group as they moved on again just as we got our drinks at the next pub. This was the Prince of Wales Hotel. I recall it was a small and unimpressive pub into which everyone was barely able to fit. So I think there was some drinking being done on the footpath even. You'd get away with it back then. That pub was destroyed by an earthquake the next week, along with many other buildings in Newcastle. The Prince of Wales Hotel was rebuilt to the plans of the original pub on the site, which was much more impressive. This is a photo I took of it 4 days before the next Santa Claus pub crawl in 1990. I think they only had a bottle shop open at the time, so I don't know what the Santas did that year. Maybe they skipped it, though I do have a vague memory that we might have just gone into the driveway where the bottle shop was and we were drinking there. Back to 1989. The main group moved on, leaving us and the growing number of stragglers behind to finish our beers, though a number of them sculled their beers to catch up. I was a bit of a slow drinker, so I imagine when my group of friends decided to leave, I would have had to do the same thing. A bit like this. Oh, been many a year since I've done that. a bit like this. Mm. Oh, it's been a few years since I did that. I don't want to do it again too soon either. Oh. The next and final pub was the Junction Hotel. Santa's would have hung around a bit longer than the other pubs before heading off to the pubs in the main city area of Newcastle. This being about a 20 to 30-minute walk through the residential streets of Cook's Hill. There was a bit of curiosity from some of the residents with all these noisy Santas wandering their streets. Oh, excuse me. I'm not sure if we then went to another hotel, but we did end up going to the Newcastle Workers Club, which is now the site of West Newcastle. I'd never been there before, which was unusual, as many people said it was a good place to go. Though for most of my adult life before that, I'd been living elsewhere. And I just thought clubs were places old people went to play bingo and poker machines. I at least knew my grandfather went there for what I considered at the time old-time dancing. Once I went inside, I realised how wrong I was, especially when I saw the main auditorium. My drunken eyes may have been exaggerating, but I swear there must have been at least 2,000 young people in there, with many on the dance floor. I decided I'd have to come here more often. Unfortunately, it was also destroyed by the earthquake, and sadly, 9 people were killed there. I'll talk more about the earthquake another time. Anyway, watch out for my next video where I'll talk about the final years of the Newcastle Santa Claus Pub Crawl and how it was killed off. So watch out for it. And remember, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and keep watching for new videos. And if you really, really love them, then help support me to make more with as little as $1 a month at Patreon. Have a good one and see you around like a risol.